Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of French auction house Apollium, and we're going to have a look at their latest auction, which is kind of fine musical instruments, I suppose, mainly bowed stringed instruments, but there are also a few other things towards the end. There's just over 200 items in this auction. We'll do our new plan of just looking at a few select kind of things and then just kind of roughly going over the rest of the items. Looks like the fees for this auction are 25%, so that's the percentage you pay of the final hammer price on top at the end. As I said, this is a French based auction, so do check all the terms and conditions, export, import, whatever you need to pay, CITES, all of that kind of stuff, especially if you're outside of France. This particular auction due to finish tomorrow, November the 30th, so it's the 29th today. By the time this uploads, it'll probably be close to being early morning in November the 30th. I'll put a link in the description as always. Have a look and just check it out yourself. Have a look at the items that I'm not going to cover and kind of see how you get on. So let's kind of crack on here. So we've got a French violin Miracor, 800 to 1200. Let's avoid that for now. German violin there, 600 to 800 euros there. Let's have a look at this German violin, 2,000 to 3,000 euros there. It's got a Testore label. They're saying it's German 19th century there. Let's see what else we can get. I'm sure you can ask them for more details, condition reports and things like that. It's a fairly interesting violin, but 2,000 to 3,000 is a fair amount of money as well. And next violin actually is fairly interesting. Flemish violin by Darsh Hilaire, saying Brussels there, on the interesting model here. 3,000 to 4,000 euro. Let's see if we can get slightly bigger photos. That kind of double purfling looks fairly decently made instrument there. There's a JTL violin there, we can go past that. French violin probably made by Paul Bailey, go for it, let's have a look at that. 3,000 to 4,000 the estimate there. 360 length of back. You can download the images in high resolution if needed. Needs obviously a little bit of work. Not sure about condition reports for this, so I'm sure you can ask them. And let's also have a look at this French violin in the style of Nicolas Viaume, 19th century. 360 is the length of back. Looks fairly nice varnish, or nice colour in any case. Moving on, French violin by Leon Mougenot, we can go past that. Lebert, probably Lebert violin, we can go past that. French violin H. Monin, go past that. Anonymous French violin 19th century, 3,500 to 4,000. It's got a Jean-Baptiste Viaume label. I wonder if there's a couple of pictures doubled up here, I think, because there seems to be a couple of violins in this auction. It's a bit strange. I think they might have potentially messed the photos up. I think this is the violin in question. I think the other photos have potentially been added by mistake here, because there seems to be a few violins. It's a bit odd. Yeah, I think they've added a few extra things here. I think it's this violin in the model in the middle that they're looking at, so that's a little bit confusing there. I think that's a bit strange. French violin by René Marichal. Let's have a look at this actually. A Slovenian violin by Blaž Demsar from Ljubljana in 1978, the capital. That's interesting. We don't often see many Slovenian violins, so interesting to see that. length of back 357. Varnish looks a bit heavy going, but still interesting to see violin from a different country there. Let's have a look at this French violin by Charles Simonin, 358, length of back 1.5 to 2,000 is the estimate there. Obviously we're always going to get a lot of French violins in a French auction. French violin entourage of Paul Bailey there. Let's have a look at this Central European violin, 800 to 1,200 euros. Looks fairly uninspiring there. Another Mircore violin there, French violin made by Jules Grandjean. French violin by Mastson. French violin probably just in Derazy workshop. Let's have a look at this one. This has had a bit of a kind of chunk out of it, it seems. It's a bit strange. Let's actually get out of that viewer. That's a bit odd. Yep, it's got a label for Presender. Needs definitely a bit of work there. French violin by Charles Rougier, 1927, 358 length of back, 2.5 to 3,000 there. Another interesting looking violin there by Lapé in Lille, 1848. A bit of a unconventional shape on that one. Another French violin, Nicolas Morlot, Mircore violin, 20th century, German violin, probably by Joseph Muller, French violin, Blanchard workshop. This is an interesting violin. It's got a Petrus Guarnerius label. It's the kind of violin that people might say is kind of modern Italian or something of that nature, or might pass off as modern Italian. Not 100% sure exactly what it is, but estimate is 800 to 1,200. I mean, it could be a decent enough violin. Yeah, made as an Italian. It's just saying here, made as an Italian copy. Interesting looking violin. Violin made by Gandon Bernardel. Here we're into some kind of serious territory here. 1889. 360 length of back. These are very popular with players, the Gandon Bernardel. One of the better French violins. Got 12 to 15,000 euros, the estimate on that. French violin by Marcel Demy. French violin by Martin Maginot. Italian violin probably made by Cennino. Vincenzo Cennino, Roma, 1958, 5 to 7,000 euros there. Interesting varnish colour there. Looks in fairly good condition there. And French Mircore violin, 19th century, German anonymous violin. Let's have a look at this French 18th century violin, because I'm quite a fan of those. 360mm to be restored. Definitely looks like it needs a bit of work. Not the most inspiring looking instrument, I must admit, but I'm sure it's probably fairly decent. Another interesting 18th century French violin, saying in the style of Solomon, which is interesting. Doesn't have some of the traits I might associate with Solomon. Some more detailing on the scroll, but interesting scroll there, 800 to 1,200 euros. Tyrolean violin there of the 19th century, I think they're saying 355 is the length of back. Heavy wear to the varnish. Interesting inked purfling there as well. 1,000 to 2,000 euros. French violin in the style of Chapuis. Well, I am a fan of the Chapuis workshop there. 5 to 700 though, but this is a kind of 19th century instrument. Another French violin there. Another French violin. Sea of French violins. This one not quite so exciting. Galliano copy, they're saying that. It looks very kind of typical 19th century. French violin made by Émile Blondelet. Viola by Grand Gérard, 300 to 400. Italian viola made by Natale Carletti, circa 1950. 45 length of back, so it's a good kind of modern length there. Not really a massive fan of the varnish on this, but 5 to 7,000 euros. Be interesting to see if that is kind of popular. It's got a 19th century viola here. Interesting F holes there. 377, that's very, very small. Another Mircore viola there, Central European viola, Gewa. This is kind of interesting violin made by Chapuis, but with 5 strings, so it's a bit of a curious one. It kind of almost has like a quinton kind of shape to it, a little bit strange. 1,500 to 1,800 euros there. French cello made by Charles Guinot. Let's have a look at that while we're here. 3 to 4,000 euros on this one. And we can ignore the French cello made by Léon Mortin. Modern cello, anonymous. Cello, probably Flemish school. Interesting. With the Carlo Tononi label, 19th century. Definitely needs a bit of TLC there, but fairly charming otherwise. 3 to 4,000 euros. Then French cello by Amédée de Doyne, French cello Mircore, French cello by René Maréchal, 1929 there. Let's have a look. It's got its Romberg on the fingerboard. Looks in fairly good condition at least. £3,500 to 4,000. Got another anonymous French cello there from the 19th century, 1,500 to 1,800. 3/4 though, this one. Then German double bass, 20th century, another German double bass. We've got some bows here. Ari France, Mircore bow. Mircore bow again, another Mircore bow. Then let's have a look at the second page. Bazin bow, Mircore, François Vorin, Cugno Huri. These are quite good, these pictures, because we can kind of actually see the bows without having to click on it too much. Got Louis Bazin bow there. Ari France, Chardon. That's actually, let's have a look at this way. Bit more, probably made by Chardon. French viola bow there. It's like fairly nice. Violin Mircore, violin bow Mircore, violin bow made by Claude Thomasin there. Jean Joseph Martin, 3,500 to 4,000. This is quite nice. Jean Dominique Adam there. It's got a Pierre Guillaume certificate, so that's good. Shame about the ivory frog, that makes things a little bit more kind of complicated, but interesting looking bow. JTL bow, Mircore again, Bazin, Goyard or Goulard, Mircore anonymous, Morzon, Adam. This is an interesting bow. Transitional 19th century bow with an iron mark for taut, bone button, 723. It's interesting. That's quite interesting looking bow there. 200 to 300 euros. Doesn't seem too bad. Let's have a look at this one as well. Violin bow, probably by Guyard. Ivory frog on that one. Quite a not very tall frog there. It's fairly thin. 800 to 1200 euros there. Another interesting violin bow made of bee wood, abiel, 19th century, 200 to 300. Looks like there's a bit of a break there at the head, I think. It looks like there's been a break, so interesting. Violin bow by Poisson. The violin bow here, Pajot Mare, anonymous, Auguste Lenoble, Mirko, JTL, more anonymous ones, Pierre Cugnot, Pajot Gouliard, Bargenet, Bazar, Gord, Mirko, violin viola bow, transitional 19th century, quite like those styles of bow. More viola bows here, half-size bow, made by Francois Pacat. Let's have a look at that. Pernambuco there, with certificate. It doesn't say who the certificate is by. Mirko bows again, Ghent and Bernardel. Is that correct? Yeah, I was going to say Gandon Bernardel. I don't know why it's saying Ghent. I think someone's made a mistake there. 3/4 cello bow, JTL again. The cello bow. This is 19th century. It's interesting. Round stick and snakewood. Kramer head. That's interesting. Like this kind of specific design is quite curious. That's the Kramer head design. That was kind of popular for a time. Neck graft, so something's going on there. In Guinot, Francois Lot, load of bows, that's fine. Got a JTL French violin there, German anonymous, Mirko violin, French Mirko. Let's have a look at this French violin, because otherwise people think I'm deliberately avoiding all French violins. So this is made in Mirko, Leopold Ordonneau, 1871. Quite like the scroll on that actually. This doesn't look too bad. What does it look like from the back? Yep, looks okay. Yeah, I quite like this scroll actually. It's quite nice. Nice and compact. Okay. Moving on to the next page here. Another Mirko violin, anonymous French violin. German 19th century. Let's have a look at this one. 400 to 500 euros. This looks fairly tradey, so I think we're on to the lower tier stuff. More French Mirko here. More French Mirko violins, JTL. Oh, this is interesting. 18th century Viennese school, bearing a label of Joseph Mayer. Estimate 500 to 700. Definitely, it's got a big brick at the back there. The varnish has been really messed around with, which is a shame. Otherwise, it could have been an interesting violin. Top has opened up as well, so lots of varnish repairs. That's quite a lot going on there. Mirko violin there, Central European. It looks a bit like a Hopf kind of thing. That kind of like dodgy 19th century or a bit later kind of almost Hopf looking shape. Sarasate violin, French Mirko, German anonymous. Mirko, German, or German there. Let's have a look at this French anonymous violin here. It's 150 to 200. This looks like your typical kind of tradey violin there with some weird kind of, looks like fake wear and cracks on the back. That's pretty horrible. German violin, French, Central European, French Magini model. This stuff is all fairly standard. I dare say there's a few interesting things in here, but we don't need to go into too much detail. Let's have a look at this German violin. Let's see if this is a kind of quite tradey looking violin. Yeah, it's got all the standard kind of trade things about the varnish and the construction there. What else do we have here? German violin there. Let's have a look at this German violin with this pretty creepy head there, 3 to 400. These really quite bizarre. This is a very typical kind of German trade violin. It's probably meant to be like a pope or something, that figure. Fischer Workshop violin, Bohemian violin, French Mircore, Jan Glass, Mancy, Mircore again. Central European, more Mircore violins. So I'm just gonna ignore 3/4 set of instruments. Let's just have a look at that. 4 violins, 3/4. I think these are mainly kind of low grade kind of French violins, it seems. And on to the final page here. Let's have a look. Set of 4 violins. Let's have a look what's going on here. This looks a bit strange. And can go past this. Yeah, so that's had a bit of mould damage there, to say the least. A bit of a crackulature as well, which isn't too bad. This mould is interesting. It must have been stored in pretty horrible place for a while. Yeah, these have really suffered quite a lot. Set of 2 violins. Let's see, I'm presuming these are all going to be fairly nasty. I don't think it's worth kind of looking. Sets of instruments. Interesting painted purfling on that. I quite like actually don't mind the scroll on that. It's kind of curious. But yeah, just kind of low tier kind of stuff. Lot of violins. Lot of 4 violins to be restored. And if you want a project, then this is probably a good opportunity. It's a Chanot model violin without corners, 2 to 300. Set of instruments here. Looks like a kind of banjo mandolin, an épinette de Vosges that seems popular for some reason, and a small kind of violin. Got a Rebec, early 20th century, 150 to 200 euros. Italian mandolin. This is one of the nicest things in this auction, to be honest. Yeah, end of the 18th century here. This is really quite nice. It's had some restorations. Definitely one of the better items in this sale. 2 to 3,000 euros. It's not too bad an estimate here. Romantic guitar, Mircore, 19th century, style of Lecotte, but the quality of something far worse. This is pretty generic kind of one. This is not a high-end 19th century violin. Estimate 2 to 300. Classical guitar there, another classical guitar. Let's have a look at the charango. 150 to 200. Okay. Interesting. And hurdy-gurdy, there seems to be, the pictures have disappeared. I'm assuming that this has kind of been removed from sale then. This is great. This is made around 1845, apparatus intended to improve the flexibility of the fingers by increasing their spacing in a progressive way. According to the method of Schubert, it is composed of a wooden structure on which are fixed 2 cushions intended to support the wrist, as well as a device of mobile shutters coming to be inserted between the fingers. 2 engraved medallions without government guarantee, painted of a vengeance, 68F method included. New method of FLD adopted by Thalberg, signed Felix Lavacher de Urkel. Interesting. We like a good finger torturing device, which is pretty much this, and this is something that people used to do in kind of the 19th century at least, or maybe even before and maybe afterwards as well. A couple of music What's this here? Interesting case here, like a violin case. Matthias Geisler, 19th century, they're saying. That's quite a nice box in any case. Bugle by Pierre Thibault, Antoine Courtard. Got a Yamaha flute there, J. Grass clarinet, Klingson Hampfer flute, clarinet, clarinet and oboe, crampon buffet accordion by Cavagnolo. Loads of boxes for wind instruments, and there was a guitar, but looks like that's disappeared. The pictures of that, and there was a frameless guitar, and the pictures have disappeared. So that's basically the auction. Not the greatest Apollium auction either, to be honest, and it's all a little bit kind of few interesting things here and there, but a lot of it's quite kind of generic French instruments in this auction. But I'll put the link in the description. I definitely recommend checking it out yourself. A few interesting bows, actually. I think this is a better auction for a few interesting bows. A few kind of interesting instruments around, but there have been better Apollium auctions in the past, I think. But link in the description. Check it out yourself, see what you think. This auction finishing tomorrow on the November the 30th. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.